Ever get that feeling like you're researching perimenopause symptoms, and it hits you, you're about to ride a roller coaster, but no one told you it was starting?
I know what you mean.
It's all hormonal roller coaster,
Yeah.
this and that, but where's the navigation manual for this thing?
Yeah, it is interesting how we just tell women to tough it out during this part of life. Like it's something you just endure instead of, I don't know, an opportunity.
Right.
Eh.
It's like grin and bear it while your body's doing its thing. What if we told you there was a different way?
A better way, yeah.
That's what I find so interesting about this Holland Clinic. Their whole website, it's all about feeling vibrant,
Mm,
not just surviving. Honestly, I think that's something we all need to hear more of.
for sure.
So in this deep dive, we're going to break down their whole approach, especially if you're like me. You want knowledge, you want action, not just another pep talk.
Right, you want to know what to do.
Exactly.
That's really the core of what makes them different, I think. Dr. Holland and her whole team, they see perimenopause not as this hurdle to get over, but as a time to really go all in on long-term health.
I like that.
Not just masking symptoms, but really getting to the root of it all.
Okay, so they're not just throwing hormones at the problem. Done and done.
Nope.
Because their website mentions it's like this blend of cutting-edge science and the traditional practices.
Hmm.
That, to me, that's really interesting. It's like acupuncture with functional testing.
Yeah.
That's not your typical doctor's visit.
Exactly. And that's what we mean by holistic. They're not looking at your hormones like they exist in a vacuum. It's all the systems in your body.
Everything's connected.
Exactly. Like they might do functional testing, but to look at your gut health, because that can have a massive impact on your hormones.
So you're saying if you just prescribe hormones without getting to these underlying things, it's like, what, putting a Band-Aid on a bigger issue?
100%. That's a great way to put it. They're all about individualized care because one size fits all. It doesn't work with this. Every woman's body is different. So what works for one person might not work for another. This is where that whole work with your biochemistry, not against it thing comes in.
I was wondering about that. So how does understanding my own biochemistry, how does that actually translate into, like, what they do?
So it starts with figuring out the root cause of what you're dealing with, right? Like, let's say you're having trouble sleeping, but you've also got hot flashes.
Okay, common.
Totally. They might look into, are there gut health things messing with your sleep hormones in addition to, like, obviously the hormonal shifts causing the hot flashes?
Interesting.
They're working with your body's natural processes, not just trying to cover up the symptoms.
This is making a lot more sense now. So how do they actually do that? I noticed they have a 3-step program on their website.
Yes, but it's important to remember that it's more like a roadmap, not a rigid prescription.
Okay, personalized.
Yes, it's tailored to you.
Gotcha. So what's the first stop on this roadmap?
It all begins with step 1, repairing gut health and boosting metabolism.
Okay, that makes sense. I've heard that our metabolism can slow down as we age, but what's gut health got to do with it?
Well, that's where it gets really interesting. Your gut impacts a lot more than you might think. We're talking everything. Nutrient absorption, your hormones, even your immune system.
So healthy gut, healthy you.
Basically.
But how does the Holland Clinic actually do that, this repairing and boosting? Are we talking all kombucha and probiotics or what?
Well, they definitely emphasize diet, like switching to whole foods and cutting out processed stuff and sugar. But they go deeper than just general advice. They use functional testing to figure out what's imbalanced in your gut.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and that lets them personalize your plan. So maybe you need a specific probiotic, maybe a supplement, maybe it's all about what you eat, but it's tailored to you.
So step 1 is kind of laying the foundation for a healthier you. What's next?
Step 2 is all about hormones and rebalancing your life. They get that, yeah, hormones are fluctuating, but they look at everything. Stress, how you're sleeping, all the lifestyle things that play a role.
So it's not just popping a pill. It's looking at your whole life, everything that could be contributing to these hormonal ups and downs.
Yes. So that might mean stress management. It might mean figuring out a good sleep routine, maybe trying natural things for symptoms like acupuncture or herbal supplements. It all depends on what you need.
That's way more comprehensive than anything I've ever heard
Yeah.
of. So what's the final stop on this roadmap to a, what was it, vibrant peri/menopause?
Right. Step 3 is reclaiming your metabolic health, which is all about preventing those chronic diseases. It's about the future, not just getting through it.
I like that. So many conversations around this are just about surviving it.
Yeah.
This idea that you come out of it feeling even better, that's empowering.
It really is.
Before we get too far, though, there were some details on their website I wanted to unpack.
Yeah, what caught your eye?
Well, they talk a lot about inflammation. and how it connects to autoimmune stuff.
Right.
And that really stood out to me because you hear so much about that these days.
Absolutely. It's huge.
It feels very relevant,
Chronic inflammation, it's like the root of so many problems, and it often gets worse during perimenopause because of those hormonal shifts we were talking about.
Makes sense.
The Holland Clinic is really proactive about it.
Okay, how so?
Well, they work on identifying and addressing it through, it could be your diet, lifestyle changes, even supplements. They're thinking long term, like how to reduce the risk of chronic illness down the road, not just feeling better right now.
That's a good point. And then there's this other term they use, metabolic flexibility. I'm not going to lie, I had to Google that one.
It sounds intimidating.
Yeah, it sounds very sciencey, but also kind of cool.
Right.
So what is the deal with metabolic flexibility, and why should we care, especially now?
Okay, so it's actually not as complicated as it sounds. Think of it this way. Your metabolism, that's your body's engine, right?
Okay.
Metabolic flexibility is like having a really high-performance engine that can switch between different types of fuel depending on what's available.
Interesting.
Just like a car can run on gas or electricity, your body can burn either glucose, so that comes from carbs, or fat for energy. When you have that metabolic flexibility, your body can switch back and forth without a problem, depending on what you're doing, what you're eating, all of that.
Okay, I'm starting to get it. But why is this so important for women in perimenopause?
Well, as we get older, and especially during this time, our metabolism naturally gets a little less adaptable. Like, it's not as good at burning fat for fuel. Our blood sugar can get a little wonky.
So is that why it feels so much harder to manage your weight, even if you're doing everything right?
Yes. It's so common.
Yeah, I've heard that from so many women.
And that's where that low metabolic flexibility, it just makes everything worse. The weight gain, fatigue, if you're trying to lose weight.
It's like a domino effect.
Exactly.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So if our metabolism is already having a hard time, can we do anything about it? Like, can we improve that flexibility?
Yes, absolutely. That's the good news.
Okay, good.
That's a big focus for the Holland Clinic. And they might recommend an exercise plan, but it's not about, being on the treadmill for hours. It's about moving your body regularly, mixing things up, some cardio, some strength training, some flexibility, making it sustainable.
Finding what works for you.
Yes. And here's the really interesting part. It's not just about exercise. It's connected to everything we've been talking about. Gut health, hormones, stress.
It all ties back together.
It does. So the way they approach it, it's really unique. Like, they might use intermittent fasting. Have you heard of that?
Yeah, I've heard of it.
It can be really good for blood sugar and burning fat, but they're also going to look at what you're eating, your stress levels, your sleep, your hormones. It's a whole picture plan.
That makes so much more sense than eat less, move more, which never lasts.
Right. And remember those program titles you mentioned?
Yeah.
Like Embrace the Sugar-Free Glow. That's all connected to this.
Oh, that's right. I knew they sounded familiar. They had those really interesting names for their programs on the website.
Yeah.
I remember thinking they sounded more like lifestyle programs, not medical treatments, which I guess is the whole point.
Exactly. They're not just treating symptoms. They're giving you the tools and knowledge to be in charge of your health for the long haul.
It's empowering.
It is. It's about putting the pieces together, and then you get to decide what you're going to do.
I like that. This is reminding me of something else that stood out on their website. It was Dr. Holland's thing about creating a community. Like, what if this approach wasn't just happening at her clinic? What if this was the norm? That would be amazing, wouldn't it? What if every woman had this kind of support?
It would change everything. Instead of feeling alone, they'd feel empowered. Like they can make good choices for their health.
Exactly. And it wouldn't be this taboo subject anymore. What if instead of dreading it, we saw it as just this natural transition? Like it deserves attention, right?
Yeah.
Care. Just like any other big life stage.
Absolutely. And we could shift this whole idea of aging. It wouldn't be about decline. It would be about vitality. Imagine that.
Oh, I love that. It changes everything. Not just managing symptoms, but literally changing how we see women, aging, health.
Right. It's about recognizing that women at this point, they're often at their peak in so many other areas. Careers, families, but their health, we don't talk about it enough.
It's true. They deserve better.
They do.
So someone listening to this right now, maybe they're feeling inspired by this whole approach, but they're thinking, where do I even start? What would you tell them?
Honestly, never underestimate information. Just by listening to this, you're already doing something, You're challenging things, looking for new possibilities.
Love that. It's not just about finding the right doctor. It's bigger than that.
It's about changing the conversation. So start by talking to your doctor. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Be your own advocate. Tell them what you've learned.
Even if your doctor doesn't have all the answers, maybe you speaking up will inspire them to learn more too.
Exactly. And there's so much out there now beyond your doctor. Books, podcasts, online groups, practitioners who get it.
It's true, there are so many resources. And don't forget about connecting with other women who are going through the same thing.
So important.
Sharing your experiences, finding support, learning from each other. That's empowering too.
It's about building that community, just like Dr. Holland said,
Yeah.
where women feel heard, seen, supported.
Yes, 100%. So as we wrap up this deep dive, what's the one thing you really want our listeners to take away from all of this?
You know, if I had to pick just one, it's this. Your experience matters. Your health matters. And you deserve more than just getting by. You deserve to feel vibrant, empowered, excited about this next chapter.
That's beautifully said. It's not about hitting pause on life. It's about embracing it,
Yeah.
with knowledge, with self-care, with support. And hey, maybe we can even change the way we think about aging along the way.
Wouldn't that be something?
It really would. Thanks for taking this deep dive with us.